Welcome to Literary Latte, the podcast with a Southern accent on writing. I'm Lynda Bouchard, and it's time for your jolt of literary inspiration. Contrary to popular belief, this is the most wonderful time of the year, beach reading season. And wow, we need books now more than ever. We're all looking for an escape with social distancing in place and with many beaches still closed. That's where my guest comes in. New York Times bestselling author Mary Alice Monroe is here to transport us to the idyllic South Carolina coast as we talk about her new novel titled On Ocean Boulevard, which debuts May 19th. In this episode, we'll talk about the return to her Beach House series, a family story that has continued for nearly 2 decades. We'll walk along the sandy shores of the Atlantic Ocean, we'll look for sea turtle nests, and feel the salty breeze on our faces with the amazing Mary Alice Monroe as our guide. All that right after this from our sponsor. If you want to get your book to the next level and give voice to your written words, then creating an audiobook is the proven and powerful way to unlock a whole new audience. So don't wait another minute. To find out how you can bring your book to life with audio, visit audiobooksolution.com to schedule a free consultation with veteran producer David Wolf. He's worked with the best, and he'll work with you to create an audiobook you'll be proud of. Plus, David will get your audiobook distributed to Amazon, Audible, iTunes, and other online channels. Audiobooks speak for themselves. Go to audiobooksolution.com. Now let's get back to the show. With me is best-selling author Mary Alice Monroe, whose new novel, On Ocean Boulevard, showcases her signature style of plumbing the interior lives of her characters while weaving in environmental issues that are dear to her heart. We all know that her novels are a must-have for beach bags, and although beaches may be closed, our imaginations are wide open. So let's dive in. Mary Alice Monroe, welcome back to Literary Latte. It's really just such a pleasure to talk to you again. And how are you doing, by the way?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's such a joy. We've known each other for a long time, so it's a great pleasure for me just to talk to you
Oh,
again. This is a strange time. We have been sheltering in place. My husband was a physician at the NIH, and he knows Anthony
mm,
Fauci, and he is really um, on the fence, like so many of us, about knowing that the key is testing and that we have to be careful. And even with the beaches right now, people wanting to clamor onto the beaches, it's not about depriving oneself, it's about making wise choices. And I think we're at the point now. It's like choosing the book that's right for you. We have the CDC guidelines. We have to choose the risks we're willing to take. And I'm in North Carolina now, and yet I'm thinking beach. I sense what everyone else
mm,
feels now, where we want to get to the water. And we all know that water feeds the soul.
yes.
It brings support. It's part of us. It's 70% of our body. And so we seek water. And I think if we can't get there physically, we need to get there through the power of words. And this year, more than any other year that I've written a beach book, this is the year that we need to escape to the water. So I'm so thrilled to have On Ocean Boulevard.
Yes. And it's such an accomplishment, Mary Alice, to get it out there during this crazy time in the publishing industry.
It is.
So, talk about how maybe that's been different for you.
Oh, it's sad. It's very sad. This is the time I actually, let me digress a bit. I started a group with Mary Kay Andrews and Kristen Harmel and Patty Callahan
Yes.
Henry and Christy Whitson Harvey. And we're all friends. And we started just talking to each other Zoom because we were all having books come out and we we're all nervous. What are we going to do? What does this mean? How do we talk to our readers? And we started from that conversation to have a Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, Friends in Fiction.
Yes.
And that's one way we're letting our readers know. We're joining the cocktail hour. It's fun. We're also talking about our books, and we're going to start inviting others. And on that same note, virtual tours is where we are all appearing. It's new. I have apprehension. I've done a few, but not many yet. My book comes out the 19th, and that's when it's really going to kick off. And May 13th, actually, let me just announce, I was supposed to have a huge kickoff party at the South Carolina Aquarium this year. Big blast. And of course, it's canceled. So instead, I am having a special event at the aquarium on May 13th, and it's my launch party, but it's also a fundraiser because people have to remember that the turtles are still coming ashore. They're still needing, all the animals in the aquarium have to be fed, and they don't have any income. So it's my way to help. And I know people love the turtles. My readers love turtles. And so on May 13th, I'm going to have a tour of the Sea Turtle Hospital. And I'm going to do a reading from the book. And for everyone who donates at least $40, it's a total donation to the hospital. All money goes to them. My thank you is sending them a hardcover copy. I'm giving them a book.
Beautiful.
Plus, they're getting a bag and a couple other things. So it's the virtual tour is our way, like what I'm doing with you today, to talk to people, to explain about the book, to explain our feelings about the story. And other than that, I think we're all holding our breath.
We are. It's such an uncertain time, but I think that the Friends in Fiction, which can be found on Facebook, if I'm correct.
It is. Thank you. It's
Right.
for one more week. It's on Mary Kay Andrews' Facebook page. We just started there. And then we also have our own group page where we are going to start initiating.
Great.
But we're getting thousands of people to come. It's sort of like The View with books.
Even better.
People are loving it. Bring a glass of wine or coffee or whatever you're drinking.
Even better. So great. And I'll have a link to that in the show notes so everybody can find you. But, it's such a positive response to the isolation that writers and everyone is feeling right now. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing that and also the aquarium launch. So that's wonderful. But as you know, Mary Alice, authors are pretty much known at being great at self-isolating, but it's a bit different.
I work with animals and I work on the computer. That's my life. And it's pretty much it. So I'm very happy, but I do miss the one time a year I get to meet my readers. And that's the tour. And that's when they can tell me why the book was special or what about the book meant something to them, or they just want to meet me. And likewise, I want to meet them. It's personal because otherwise I go back in my little cave and I create another story world. But the good thing I feel about this year is On Ocean Boulevard is by coincidence. I think I'm a little prescient, as most authors are. This book talks about a young girl coming home who lost her job in California. And so she comes home to live with her folks. So that's happening today.
Yeah.
We have a woman with Alzheimer's, and they're worried because she's wandering, and that's certainly happening today. But most importantly, we have a wedding happening, Kara's wedding. For those who know the Beach House series, they've watched Kara go up and down. I mean, she's carried the series, and she's getting married, and it's the wedding we're all excited about. But the daughter gets sick. The little 5-year-old gets measles, another contagious disease. And it blows the whole wedding plans away. And that's happening today.
Right.
How does a family deal with a sudden surprise illness that is contagious? And I really think, my goodness, I wrote this book a year ago, and yet we are experiencing this now.
Absolutely.
And of course, the turtles.
Of course, your turtles. And I've always said that writers are visionaries, and wow, you prove it. You prove it. So, yeah, speaking of
Yeah, yeah,
turtles, in this novel, you return to the sea turtles and the turtle teams
I
that
do.
protect them. And you begin each chapter with a fact about sea turtles. For
Mhm,
instance, in chapter 23, you begin with this. It is widely believed that hatchlings imprint the unique qualities of their natal beach, either in the nest or during their trek across the sand. These could include celestial cues or offshore currents. Studies have shown that sea turtles have the ability to detect magnetic fields to help them navigate. And I found that so fascinating. And Mary Alice, that's such a
mhm,
clever way to create responsible stewards. Talk a little bit
thank you.
about that and about how the
Mhm.
species and setting informs the story for you.
It began 20 years ago with the beach house. And I am, for those who are listening, I am still a permitted member of the Isle of Palm Sullivan's Island turtle team, which means I make decisions whether to move a nest. We monitor the saga of the entire cycle. And there's only each group has only 2 to 5 members who are permitted. Then we have 180 walkers who are volunteers. So we monitor that. It's very serious, and we all are devoted to this ancient species. And I have found over 20 years that my readers have shared that love of sea turtles. There's something iconic about them. And I like to think, and I know for a fact that my readers have influenced volunteerism. They have made donations. They are mindful of their responsibilities as beachgoers, leave only your footprints on the beach, because they've read the books. And that's because I believe in the intrinsic honor and sense of responsibility and just caring of my readers, of all people, when they are educated or just made aware. So it's through the power of story. I don't tell people what to do. This is not nonfiction. I write fiction. People come to my books because they care about Kara and her family and this ancient historic Charleston society. But when they leave, they learn something about these sea turtles and they're grateful for that extra. It's a bonus, an extra knowledge. But particularly this year, as in every book,
Mhm.
when the readers come to my books, as opposed to, I think most other beach books, they know they're going to be getting a sense of the island and the landscape in a very, all 5 senses, because I'm there. I am a turtle lady. I work with the shorebirds. So my readers will see the nests. They will see the hatchlings reach the sea. They will become part of the
Mm.
team, and that roots them to the story world so that they can feel all the emotions that the characters feel. It's a really interesting dynamic that it's a reader promise for me. For every book that I write, no matter what species, I have worked with the species. So my passion is my character's passion. So the reader sees the species through the eyes of my characters, so they feel it too. And why is that important? Because with emotion, if they care, they take care.
Mm.
So it's I think it deepens and enriches the novel, and at the same time, it sweeps them up in the family saga. So people often ask, which book should I read first? Well, read On Ocean Boulevard. It's hot off the press, it's very timely. But my job as an author is to create a beginning, a middle, and end. It's a standalone novel. You don't have to have read them
Yes.
all. My hope is that when you do, you love the characters and you can go back and read them all, because that's what I love to do. When I find an author I love or series I love, I want to read them all. And it's a bonus.
Yes, and it's that permeable membrane between language and landscape that you
Mm,
bring to the page. I mean, it's just unique. And I kind of think of Rachel Carson,
thank you.
the the
Thank you.
environmentalist Rachel Carson. I'm sure you're familiar with her,
Oh, yes.
who wrote that book, The Sea Around Us. And I see you as a modern day Rachel Carson.
That's the greatest thing anyone has ever said. She's a model of
Uh,
mine. My feeling is that I'm more fiction,
yes,
however, than
yes.
Rachel, because my goal, I'm not preaching to the choir here. My goal is to tell a great
Mhm.
story, to care about these people. And I want them to feel like they're on the Isle of Palms. But yes, they will be very rooted to place. They will smell the ocean. Their feet will be in the sea. They will they will feel like they are on the turtle team. And they're sitting on the porch with a glass of iced tea looking on Ocean Boulevard. The whole story in this book is about a house being built on Ocean Boulevard. And for those who've read the whole series, I read every book in the series, and this is number 6,
Yes.
every year before I begin the new one. Because I chart out the character arcs. So I know Carol has come full circle in this book. She becomes the matriarch. When in the first book, she was the child coming home to her mama. It was a mother daughter misunderstanding that had to be resolved because mama was
Right.
sick. And over the course of the series, you see her go up and down in all the different relationships. And her brother and her duke it out. And all these family stuff that goes on. In this book, she comes full circle. And now I'm writing another one because I want to write about what's going on in our lives right now. And it's the next generation, the 18-year-olds, the 23-year-old, the 30-year-olds who are taking the forefront. And now Kara's going to be where I identify myself, the matriarch. I used to be Kara at 40. Now I'm the matriarch.
Yes, absolutely. And that
I've grown up with her.
of course, as your readers have as well.
I
We've
think
all
so.
kind of grown together. And so, your characters, have evolved. So,
Mhm.
what character do you think has grown the most, and which is most like you, Mary Alice?
Kara is most
Mhm.
likely. But at the beginning, I really loved the mother character, Lovey. But she was the epitome of a Southern grace and charm. And
Mm,
I don't know if anyone, I mean, she had her failings, but her faith, her inner strength, her wisdom, oh my God, everyone wants to be Lovey. But I felt more like Kara, I'm on a growth arc. Most of us are. And now that Kara's getting older, I identify with her the most. The one whose change was the most interesting is her brother Palmer,
mhm.
who is an alcoholic who has been fighting with that for years. He's that Southern male so many of us know, who sits at the table and head of the table, a good storyteller, but boy, when he starts drinking, back off. And his battle has been up and down with his mother and with his sister, but he's grown. And by the end of the book, especially Beach House Reunion, that was his arc. It was so great to see him. He's always going to be a recovering alcoholic, but you saw him really
Mhm.
crossed the line to trying to treat the women in his life better, he went bankrupt. He hit, I gave him every hammer I could, and he came back, and he came back. So for
Mm,
me, I think for the people who can follow these characters, they can see people they know. And I don't answer questions, I raise them and I
yes,
present possibilities. And hopefully they're satisfying because my job is to present a real world both for my characters, and my husband's a psychiatrist and he helps me a lot with that, and also for the environment. I don't slip into making everything so pretty but it's not real. I want them to see reality in every sense of the word, so when they come to Isle of Palms, Sullivan's Island, they see what's really happening there and the love and tradition and the morals and the values. But it's
yes,
not nostalgia, it's real.
right. And you brought up your sweet husband, and you have a wonderful blog post on your website titled The Ides of March, where you talk about seeing this gift of forced time at home as an opportunity. And
Yes.
you share your own story, Mary Alice, that many years ago when you were pregnant, your doctor put you on forced bed rest for a few months, and you were angry, and you spent time watching television. And then
Poor
your
me.
husband your husband, Marcus, took the TV out of your room
I
and
couldn't go
handed
after it. I was in bed. I couldn't go get it.
I know. Hey, he's smart, right?
He
And
was.
he handed you a legal pad and a pen. And you know what? I love that on so many levels.
Yes. Yes.
How wonderful is he? Can you think of a better gift than that?
He's the best of men. He and a psychiatrist, as I said, but he said, Mary Alice, for as long as I've known you, you've wanted to write a novel, but you never had the time. I had left my career as a teacher.
Mhm.
And he said, now you had the time. And I think the parallel and it changed my life. And I think the parallel is that as we look at this forced amount of time, in hindsight, since the Ides of March, I see that those first several weeks, even a month, we were all so stressed with trying to deal with the new realities that I think our focus of attention was everywhere. But I like to look to this gift of time to say, hey, everybody, pick one thing that it's a painting or a garden. Like I made a new garden. That's my contribution this year. And hopefully I want to finish this summer with a new book. What is the one thing you can look back and say, it was tough and I endured it, but I produced fill in the blank. And that should be your deepest desire. Find one thing. I don't care if it's
Mm.
I lost 10 pounds. What is the one thing that you want to have done? And I think that's what I show in my characters. I try to give them a dilemma and they struggle, but at the end, there's growth. And I find that inspiring for the readers, but also for me as a writer.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. And now that our days really don't have the rhythm to it, we're probably out of sync with time because of this forced isolation.
Yes.
No, we need that goal setting. And you're like, yes, I agree with that. Just one thing. Make it happen.
Just the one thing, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be finish a novel. It can be start a garden or learn flower arrangement, or like I said, get exercising every day, or take a walk every day. Get a
Mhm.
dog. What is the one little secret thing you would love to have? Look back in your life and say, during this time, I marked it with this. This was my gift to myself. And I promise you, you'll look back at it and think, ah, I'm proud at that moment.
Yes, great advice. Great advice. Let's talk about your process of writing for a little bit and how you begin. Do you begin with a story or the species?
The species, it's prescient again. I have so many species I want to write about. I keep saying the manatees someday, but it's a surprise when an issue comes up that my heart, it's a physical reaction. I hum with the blood, that I know my heart goes, I'm excited. I can barely wait. And the funny thing is, while you have an idea that you love, you put it on the shelf because you're working on another book. And you sometimes find that excitement fades and something else took its place. But it's what endures is when it has to last a good 2 years of research and then the year of writing a book. And I have to do this with a book a year. It's been pretty strenuous to do the research while I'm writing another book. And that's because I'm not writing two books. If
Mhm.
let's take, for example, shorebirds. I was writing a book about, oh, which one was it? Some other book, some other species. By the time I'm writing the book, my research is done. The species, the outline, the structure, and it's all about the people. All I care about is the emotions of the people. So while I write the book, I know that my next book might be on shorebirds. So I'm going out and rescuing shorebirds, bringing them in, getting to know them. And during that time, I'm just taking notes and journaling my feelings because I'm not writing a story, I'm experiencing it myself. So when
Mhm.
that book is done, that I finished writing, I hand it in, take a break, then I take all that research and I begin creating that book. So I really write one book at a time, but I can do the physical research with a species. And it usually by the time I begin writing, it's so much. I've been living with it for 2 years. I call it it's choking me. So projectile writing, it just gushes out in a first draft. And as
Right,
Anne Lamott said,
right,
it's the shitty first draft.
right,
It's not very
right,
good. But
right.
that's when you bring out your tools and you
Yes.
use your craft and you make a better book. But you get the soul of the story down. And oh my God, yeah, that's what the book's really about. And then you begin writing.
Yeah.
So it's 2 steps.
It's all about the rewriting.
Well, it
Yes.
is all about the rewriting, but for me, the heart of the book always shines through the first draft.
Mm, yes,
And
and
that's why I encourage young writers, keep going. Don't belabor those first 3 chapters. Just get the guts down.
right, don't edit as you go along. That can
Mhm,
really stifle you as a writer. And, writing a novel requires focus and discipline, as you've just mentioned. And
mhm,
you have deadlines and the demands of promoting a book, but you
mhm,
also have a family. Talk about how you balance that and the importance of a supportive spouse to your career. Do you
mhm.
think you could have done it without that?
No, I do not think I could have done it without it. Well, let's put it this way: I couldn't have done it with a family and not a supportive husband. I am a driven writer. I would be writing, but not with children and all that. Marcus was, but when he was young, I have to be honest, he was in medical school, and as I said, he was at the NIH, and we didn't have one dime to rub against the other because he was always doing research and he was always in the glory of science, and they don't pay well. All those people who are out there doing research, let me give a big salute to them because they're not getting paid well. They're doing it
Mm,
because they love it. Like a lot of writers early on in their career. I mean, I was getting paid next to nothing. And I had little children the first 3 years, and I wrote the best I could, but not until the youngest was in first grade. I couldn't work full time. And I
mhm.
would work in the mornings, very disciplined. Nora Roberts, a friend of mine, who's a star, but one of the most disciplined writers I've ever known. And I remember early in the day, this was back when I lived in DC and Marcus was at the NIH and I was a young writer. Nora wasn't as big as she is now, but she was prolific. And one thing about Nora is she's so disciplined. She doesn't take to sorry stories very well. And I called, no, my poor me. I took 2 books in 1 year, which was crazy. I'll never do it again. How am I going to get it done with the kids? Blah, blah, blah. And she goes, Mary Alice, you put a sign on your door. Is it blood or fire? If not, go away. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't do that. But I understood what she was saying. Respect for your time, whether it's an
Yes,
hour or 3 hours. So if it's blood, you come out. If it's fire, you come out. If it's a peanut butter sandwich, you tell them to go away. And so what I did was
mhm,
I worked from the moment they went to school till they came home from school at 2:30, 3 o'clock. Then I played fair, closed the computer, was mama, did the dinner, we had that. But afterwards, I put the sign up. And on weekends, I put the sign up for my time, maybe just an hour or two. And I tell everybody, no matter what your passion is, give yourself that gift of time, respect it, because
yeah.
respecting the time means you're respecting yourself. And that was the best advice anyone ever gave me. I think that in the end, the drive has to be internal, but the support is what makes life worth living.
You have written also, besides your best-selling novels, you've written a couple of children's books.
Oh, thank you for
And
mentioning that.
And talk about the way that's different than writing a novel and that interaction, the process of working with an illustrator.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about that.
It's completely different. I started with doing picture books for young children because I was frustrated by seeing beautiful books about sea turtles, for example, that the information was wrong. And I just feel that kids deserve the honest truth because what they see in print, they believe. And so I wrote Turtle Summer, and I used a photographer deliberately because at that point, many people wanted to know, and I'm not talking about children, adults. What are you doing out there, you turtle ladies? What do you mean? How do you take care of the turtles? So I created a book that was written for mothers and grandmothers to actually read to their children. And it's a picture book, but with photographs. And when I read it to children, they get little ants in their pants because it's a little too many words. But when they're very young, you show the pictures. But the mothers are learning, the grandmothers are learning, and the children love the pictures. The second book is a butterfly called Hope. And I wrote that deliberately for children to read themselves. So difficult to get the word choice correct, to get a little bit of rhyme without being corny. It's people think they want to write a children's book because it's easy. It's harder. I could write a novel easier. And now I'm really proud because the group I've always wanted to write for is middle grade, the
Mhm.
second grade through fifth. Those are the kids who still believe they can be a judge and a superstar. They can do anything they want and they can still save the planet. So I wrote the first of a series for Simon and Schuster, and it comes out March. Let's not say March, spring 2021. I don't know yet. And
Oh,
it's the
great.
first of a
Yeah.
trilogy, and it's called The Islanders. And it's about three children who would not ordinarily be friends, who think it's the worst summer ever because they're on Deweese Island, which is a very small island off Isle of Palms. No shopping, no cars, no internet. And oh my God, worst summer ever. And they learn to play in the wild like we did as kids. And I'm hoping it encourages kids as well as parents to turn off electronics a little bit and to appreciate what's wild. And of course, turtles.
Always, always. Right.
Kids love them.
Yes, I love turtles too. And you've worked with so many species and, butterflies, horses.
Mm.
You
Dolphins are the most supreme, are the top.
do you have a favorite?
Dolphins. Well, no, turtles are my favorite because I've worked for so long. It's my species. But of all the species I've worked with, the ones that I am in honor and awe of are dolphins. And this winter I'm going to work with whales. And I know that's a step above. It's my lifelong dream. And I'm finally going to do whales. But I think
Can
it's
you
the same
Mhm.
level of intelligence. Dolphins are we know that dolphins are self-aware. And that's a different series. That's the Low Country series. The Summer
Yeah.
Girls, Summer Wind, Summer's End, Low Country Wedding, Low Country Christmas. That's 5 books. And I don't know if I promised I would write one more, but I'm not quite ready yet. But I worked for 6 years intensely with dolphins to write that series. And
Mhm.
people love that connection. It's not flipper, it's
No,
much more
no.
real. And I
Yeah.
think of all the species, though, when you look in the eye of a dolphin, oh boy, they've got something to tell you. They're so smart. They get it. It's hard to
Mhm.
explain, but it's when I look at a human being and I know we're making that eye connection, and there's a moment of zing. You get that with dolphins. It's pretty
Mhm.
special.
Mm. Yeah, you've had such a it's a wonderful opportunity for you to that in-depth knowledge of each of the species that you write about
Mm.
has taught you something different, I'm sure, about mankind as
You know
well.
what, Linda? One of these days, and it's high on my list, I want to write a book about all the different unique experiences I had with different species that taught me lessons. And all of them were spiritual. That
Mhm.
connection, it's a connection to the higher power, and it's a connection to each other. It's all one. And I think it'd be really fascinating to tell these stories because honestly,
Yeah.
Some of them I can't explain what happened, and I don't have to. That's part of our saying yes to the universe. I don't understand, but I accept. And that's the prayer. Yes, I accept. I don't have to understand everything. And that's God power that you connect with.
Yes. Soulfulness,
Mhm.
which we need a little bit more of these days.
Especially, I think, during our times of trouble, it might be important for all of us to just take a few minutes of meditation, and because we're stressed. And that goes through the rest of our lives. We'll always find stress. But now, in particular, let me advise everyone to go outside, open a window if you live in the city, if you can, but just breathe the air and let the sun shine on your face for just a minute, and close your eyes and just be. It calms the spirit.
Mm. Mary Alice, in closing, there are so many authors on the launch pad right now whose books are delayed or they won't see publication due to this pandemic. And, the disappointment can be profound.
Mm.
What advice do you have for them?
It's an interesting time. I don't know if I can give advice. I can only say, for those of us who have books out right now, we're finding comfort in talking to one another. We are, so if someone whose book is not being published, or it's quietly being published, shout out, tell everybody. It's all about getting the word out. So talk to other authors who know what you're going through. If I suspect there will be changes in the publishing industry as a result of this, and I'm not sure what that means. But I know that I'm blessed that my readers are looking forward to this book, and they're going to get it. They're going to read it one way or the other. And I feel the more we on Ocean Boulevard, I see you putting it up. I think the beauty of having a series is for those readers who are close to and connected to my characters. Not only they're getting to the beach, they know these people. They're seeing old friends, and they can't see their friends, but they can see the Rutledge clan and their friends through the book. So I think series books, more than almost any. The other thing that I recommend for everybody is audiobooks.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
find a lot of people are saying they're too distracted to read much for long periods, which I can understand. I don't have that problem, but I love audiobooks because it's a different you can sit outside or by the fire or wherever and just listen. And you're still getting that personal sense of creating your own world in your mind and imagination, but you're listening
Yes.
to a story. I love it.
Yes, right. Or as we're cleaning, we can listen to them as we're cleaning out our closets, as we're doing all the cleaning that we're doing
Oh,
during
Lynda,
this.
I have to say I've been cleaning out closets. That's another thing. I cleaned out my
Right?
closets during this gift of time. We have to
But
find the positive. We have to find the positive.
we do, and wow, thank you for taking us on this journey and for your amazing, amazing wisdom. Mary
Thank
Alice
you.
Monroe, it has been such a pleasure to talk with you again, and thank you for writing On Ocean Boulevard and for creating awareness of the natural world through your writing. I wish you and your family good health.
You too, Linda. Stay healthy and safety. And for all those listening, stay healthy and safe and make good decisions regarding social distancing. And let me invite everyone to my Facebook page. We are giving away big prizes this week. It's the last week. So come on down and be lucky.
My guest has been Mary Alice Monroe. Her novel, On Ocean Boulevard, is published by Gallery Books, an imprint of Simon & Schuster, and debuts May 19th. Her book is available at your favorite booksellers and online. And right now, please, please support your local independent bookstore during this corona pandemic. Keep them in business. And there's no better way to do that than ordering lots and lots of copies of On Ocean Boulevard. You can find out more about Mary Alice at maryalicemonroe.com, and I'll have a link to her website in the show notes where you can discover more about her upcoming events.
You've been listening to Literary Latte with Lynda Bouchard. For more information, visit bookingauthorsinc.com.